This was a really cool thing to see that I don't think I would ever do again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Hive. Today it's December 4th, 2025. We've had a bit of snow overnight. We've got a couple inches on the ground altogether, and it's minus 8 degrees Celsius. So what we're going to be doing today is putting our Bee Cozy winter wraps on the hives. Something we're going to show you that we've never done before is we're going to tip up each of the hives to show the size of the cluster that we're putting into winter. So I'm here today with Hannah, and Hannah's going to be helping with this tip up, and also Emma. She's also going to be learning technique for putting on the Bee Cozy winter wraps and for just taking a look to see what we're putting into winter. So glad that you could join us today, and then we're going to show you how to do the final steps of preparing these bees for winter. So often what we see is the cluster will be generating enough warmth that it will actually melt a circle of snow. But because this snow just came last night and it's minus 8 degrees Celsius out, it's still just too cold for that heat to radiate up through. So I'm going to take a look here and see what we're dealing with. Bit of smoke in the entrance. We'll tip back the hive cover, lay it on the ground. Here's our queen excluder ready for the season. And as you can see, there's already moisture wicking out the front, and that's just from condensation in the hive and perhaps a bit of snow melt. So we'll just crack it here. I'm trying to position it so you can see what we're doing. And we'll move it forward. So there's our cluster going into winter. So what you want to do, these all weigh 100 pounds or more. So when we do this, you want to push with your foot. Use your leg muscles and just rock it. So you let the bottom board take the weight, you slide forward and rock it back. But this is, I'll remind everyone, our treating regimen was we treated on May 9th with a full dose of Formic Pro, and then we treated again on September 8th with a full 2 strips of Formic Pro. And those strips are still in the hive. We'll remove them come spring. Okay.
This is an amazing thing to see.
Okay, so Emma, do you remember this hive? This is the hive that was sort of your favorite hive or pet
buddy hive.
Did you have a name for it? I can't remember.
I just called it my buddy hive.
Okay, so Emma, this is your buddy hive. But what you're looking at is the cluster of winter bees that's going in. So into the winter season. These bees will probably live 5 to 8 months.
Okay.
They would have started emerging the first week of September because the eggs that made up these bees were laid starting mid-August. And the bees want to cluster between 25 and 35,000 bees. And I think we can say they've successfully achieved that.
I think it's such a neat thing to see what they're really doing in the winter, coming together like this. When you say these bees will live 5 to 8 months, you said?
Months, yep.
That's not the individual bees.
That's the individual bees.
Really?
Yes, and they'll replace themselves over the winter, and we'll have summer bees that will be emerging in the spring season. Yeah. So a lot of these bees will never see a flower.
Yeah.
It's part of what's called the circannual rhythm of the colony, where the summer bees produce the resources and hoard those resources, and then the winter bees take over and convert them into the future summer bees for the next years.
Wow.
2 very distinct populations. So we're just to be clear, we don't normally do this.
Right.
Doing this for the video shoot so that people can see what we're putting into winter.
Yeah.
And we're going to be running separate videos of how we got to this point, working with the goals of the bees. Because not our goals are important, the bees' goals are important.
Yes.
Once you know what the goals of the honeybee are, we can build our management around that.
How do you think they're feeling in the weather today?
Well, if it was minus 8 and I was sound asleep and someone ripped the covers off, I would be unhappy.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting them to be happy, but they're not flying up at us, they're staying calm. So we're just going to go through the yard, flip them all up so everyone can see what we're putting into winter. Then we'll put them all back down and put the Bee Cozies on.
Queen.
This technique, there's the
Oh, hi, Mom.
So here, Emma spotted Her Majesty right there. So we'll actually move her up into the main cluster. There we go. And you can feel the warmth coming off them when I move my fingers there.
Good demonstration too that the queen does generally stay to the center of the cluster.
Yeah.
And she was, you know, she was down low, but she was pretty well in the middle there.
Yeah.
Good eye. Okay, that's a big cluster.
That's a bigger. They're dripping.
Lean it right down.
I don't feel like I'm far enough forward.
You are. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, a little, even a little bit more. So there's a good sized cluster. So we have to be careful we tip it up because we actually put some of the cluster in the snow here.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So the bees are several layers deep here.
Yeah.
And we can see them running up already, trying to get back into the hive.
Cozy.
So I'm kind of regretting doing this already, but we're here for scientific illustrative purposes. So I've got a friend walking down my nose that flew up and wanted to be part of the conversation, I guess. We had fully intended to tip up all the single brood chamber colonies in this yard, but we found a queen immediately and we don't want to stress them any further. But for illustrative purposes, I think we can see that the bees are in pretty good shape in this yard going into winter. So we went from 16 to 30, lost 2, down to 28, and we're putting these 28 hives in good shape for going into spring. So we're going to put everybody back down and start with doing our bee cozies. Anything you'd like to share, Hannah?
No, clusters are looking strong. Hives are looking, are feeling nice and heavy, which is exactly what you want going into winter. And yeah, it'll help us sleep a bit easier this winter.
Great.
For sure, seeing them good like this.
Yeah, this is a really special thing to see. And it really makes me feel good that our bees are good going into winter and everything. I'm also so eager to get them tucked in because I feel cold and I'm sure they feel cold.
Well, they're not exactly
go.
shivering, but as you can see, they don't sleep. They're insects, they don't hibernate. The other thing I'm liking is that we're not seeing a lot of dead bees or debris on the bottom boards yet. So the bees have been doing good house cleaning to this point and are running their affairs very well. So I hate to say it, we just set them all up, so let's put them back down and hopefully people appreciate having a look at what we're putting into winter. This is what the back is looking like. So we're gonna I'm actually gonna set it forward a little bit so the bees will have a chance to reconvene. We've never done this before, so we're learning how the bees respond to our actions. So I've actually set it forward, and I'm hoping those bees will crawl down back into the hive here. You can see that they've put up some really nice sized clusters, and they're quite, even though it's -8, they're still moving around. And so I'm just going to put this down and they can reconvene, and we'll get on with putting the bee cozies on. So to create the bee cozies, we've actually made a tunnel where the fin seal fold is up the front, and this will form a tunnel that'll connect the upper entrance with the lower entrance. The entrance reducer is tapped on, and we can either pull it over the nail to give a strong windbreak or have it peaked up over the nail. And then there's a seam, which if you look around, that keeps the bats that are inside the wrap from overlapping with each other. You just put that down the back corner, and this just slides on like this, and it's slightly taller than the hive body, so you can see how it sticks up a little bit. So what we do is we go along and we just roll over the edge, and that will become the seat for the hive cover. Because we keep our queen excluders with our hives year round, we then set our queen excluder on here, which sort of performs a double function of making sure no rodents will ever come in through the top. And then we have our hive cover. It slips on top, and we pull it forward so that we don't block the upper entrance, and then we just make sure our tunnel's like this. So this creates a nice cozy, literally bee cozy, winter wrap for our colonies, and that's it. It's good to go. Some people in really windy locations might strap on their hive covers. We run a relatively heavy, deep hive cover, But this makes a perfect cozy environment for the bees to winter in. Emma, maybe you could take the level and make sure every colony is tipped forward. So the reason we tip the colonies forward is the conversion of feed into heat produces moisture. So there's condensation within the colony, and any moisture that's created we want to run out and not sit in the bottom of the hive where it can create mold and other unhealthy environments.
I know beekeepers often, there are lots of different ways to protect your bees in the winter. What is it that you like about this style?
It is so fast.
Yeah.
It just takes moments to put on and to take off, and it gives very good protection.
When you started beekeeping, were there many winter designs?
When I was trained with was a tar paper wrap that you put wood shavings down around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this in many ways mimics that. It's just instead of tar paper, we went for a UV protected poly. And instead of wood shavings, we have the insulation bats that we have in here. The bees can get out. It's important to sort of oversize the outer lids when we make them to allow for a bee space all the way around. And then you just slide it into the necessary seasonal position. So it just takes a few seconds, less than a minute per hive, to get the wraps on once you get rolling. So again, the yard looks a lot different. Hannah, what did you think of this experience?
Looks great. Clusters are looking really good going into winter. The ones that we lifted were nice and heavy, which is a relief. And now we've got all of our colonies insulated. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sleeping well this winter and not worrying about this yard. Yeah.
Yeah, now we can focus on taking care of our honey house and making sure we've got everything prepped for our next year.
Yeah, we got some lumber in to turn into equipment. We're getting our tool shop cleaned up and set up. So winter work ahead, always lots to do in the beekeeping world. We want to thank the bees that involuntarily sacrificed their lives so we could illustrate how good the clusters are after our treatment regimen and feeding regimen. And we'll go into details with that with a separate video. So thank you for your help.
Thanks.
And back to the honey house.